Today is September the 7th, and we are local today largely due to milking or recovering from a slight injury from last week. I ended up walking an hour back on a hyperextended foot, and dealing with that for a bit of the week is what it is. But today we're out, but we're out a little bit more locally, and it's better known terrain, so less element of the unknown. So we're going to be doing that. And because it's a seasonal change, assessing that as well as any of the infrasonic phenomenon that have been in the area in the past. And heaven forbid we figure out what the hell that is, because to this day it's still kind of a stumping thing for me. But that's the plan. As much as I have one today, I'm kind of more doing an improv of a game plan for the timeout today. We'll figure it out. So, very cynical in this. But as somebody who goes out into the field and looks, I'm going to address the other thing I read this week that was kind of funny to me. You have the Skoftics of the coalition. Notice I go right to Skoftic and not skeptic, not agnostic, like their management would have you believe. That's not what they are. That is the narrative. That is the lie. And again, it's not that we're saying you're wrong. We're saying that you're lying and you're being disingenuous. The blind finally gave out. That's been up for like 2 years. I don't know if somebody's in the process of taking it down, or it just gave up the ghost to the elements. It's funny. But, so if anyone wants a free blind or whatever's left of it, there you go. Not mine, I don't steal shit. So it shall remain there at my hands. So let's see, the two things they said. One, you had a jackass claiming that the Patterson-Gimlin film has been a debunked hoax. And no, it is, as it remains, inconclusive. Nobody on either side has argued it decisively one way or the other, at least to my level of being convinced. And 5 decades later, I don't think it matters, because it is no longer the cornerstone linchpin of evidence that's out there. I think people should be looking to find new bits of evidence. Go out into the woods and do the work, and that brings me to the other thing I want to address, namely from one of the other Skoftictoids, the Skoftictoids out there, as I'll term a new derogatory term for these people. And that is that field work is useless. As a person who has gone out of their way to get out into the middle of nowhere as the rule, and to make an effort to get educated in the ways of forestry and nature conservation and things that apply to this kind of a science, and it is definitely a science, you learn how the forest works, what's normal and what isn't. And I have on multiple occasions run into what is not normal out here. Weird shit does happen out here. So to that person, I flip the bird. Maybe, and don't step in that because that would probably make your foot stink, but to this person, maybe get up out of your armchair and waddle your fat ass into the woods, because something tells me you're plump and overweight, and have a look for yourself, and then get back to me. And when I say that, I'm not talking like your fat little deer hunter that goes in 100 feet from where his truck is parked on the side of the road. I'm talking like get your ass out into shit where you end up nursing a fucking semi-twisted ankle like I am right now and the like. Make some effort to explore, because that is an exercise of what this is. The ones that just want to sit there and poo-poo everything are both intellectually cowardly, but they're also lazy. And yes, I know that is disparaging. You know, the thin-skinned among that community will use the word defamatory. Where did I use a single name? And I will say one thing to the person who runs the chief Scofftotoid group. And that is, maybe you ought to give less time to your hobby and waddle your obviously fat diabetic ass to a doctor and see about getting some health towards your health and your mental state, because you clearly have issues with both. And that is not meant as an insult, although I know it's going to be taken that way because that's what malignant narcissism does to you. But it's meant as your health is obviously in the toilet. Maybe it's not too late to do something about it. But the last time I saw your profile picture, holy shit, do you look like crap. Do something about it. Be a responsible adult and do something about your health. Get off the interweb, stop eating Hot Pockets in your mommy's basement or wherever the hell you're living now, and attend to your health and see a fucking doctor. For the love of God, nobody wants to see you drop dead. Believe it or not. All right, we are not where we thought, so I am going to take a quick break and reorient myself. I'm not lost, I'm just in a patch of these woods that aren't going to get me where I need to be or where I want to be, so I am going to take a break and take care of that. I think I'm further along than I thought, but I'm not lined up with the terrain I wanted. So let me take care of that real quick, and we'll go from there. I'll be back in a bit. We've had a damn wet summer up here. Can't speak to the rest of the country, but up here in the Northeast, we've had a pretty soggy June through August as compared to others. And this is like bone dry by comparison to what it normally is. So concerns about crossing are not what they once were. So anyway, true to the stagnation of the subject, struggling to think of any earth-shattering new news, as opposed to poking fun at some Scofftotoid shit that's, I'd say new stuff, but it isn't. It's really just the same old, same old. So I'll give you some forestry wisdom in the meantime. These right here, if you pick the needles as opposed to spruce, which will make your stomach upset, are good for making tea. And I've come across this on a number of bushcrafting type sites, and it is a massive source of vitamin C. So when you're out in the middle of the cold weather, you're like a logger or somebody like this who's out in the cold. A lot of these guys never get sick because of that little secret. Bullwinkle sends his regards. And yes, we are in Connecticut. For those that are not educated, Connecticut does actually have moose. I actually found out to my sadness this last week that the moose population in Vermont is suffering because, this is forestry stuff, not Bigfoot stuff. Fucking snow ticks, and yes, they are a thing. They're big too. Winter ticks, and just because they're in a weakened state, being outpopulated and outperformed by deer that are more numerous. Which is sad because we like to see the moose. X structure, totally natural, but for those people that want to believe that's something more, there you go. We've crossed like 3 of them in the course of maybe a quarter mile so far. And now that we're back in a more familiar setting, I was basically where I got turned around. It was really nothing more than me wandering into a thicker patch like 200 feet north of the path I normally take through here. Because normally I am that familiar going back this way. Between there and there, there's an opening there. I'll go back and jump the stream there and make my way back. I've done this enough times that in the Tribog area, Tribog number 3 is over there. Number 2 is through that shit. And there actually is, if it isn't overgrown, no, there's like a path that cuts itself through there, probably worn down over the years by hunters. I don't know if the tree stand is still over to my left. Up until recently there was, and there are a pair of hunters. I'm not going to be specific, but over that way they have their little stash. And are we in the hunter corral? No, this is just over this way. There's like a little corral looking thing that hunters made too, that they made for cover as they're hunting for either Bambi or turkeys. I didn't see Bambi recently up here, but I have seen turkeys today. So they're around. When the hunting season begins in about 3 weeks, you'll never see them again until January, because they know, as does Bambi. I know this to be a fact because when I was working on a college campus up in the eastern part of Connecticut, which is a lot more rural, this is what's left of the hunter corral, I guess. The deer were actually in the summer months, very basically petting zoo tame almost, because they just realized that kids bipping around on their phones, other than the threat of bumping into them by not paying attention. And for your comedic pleasure, yes, I've actually seen that almost happen. They felt pretty safe the closer they got into campus, believe it or not. You'd actually have to like stop your car in the middle of the campus to let the deer go by. Whereas you see it coming closer to October, November, you see them get a whole lot more skittish. They do know. There's an innate sense of an increase of threat level that they can see. And let me check how we are doing on battery. I am going to take a break again because we seem to be running low on that. So we're going to like take a break to preserve that. Then we'll see where we are on the way out. I'll be back again. So I no sooner got done with a live stream, because I'm up on a hill and I do have a signal out here. Count 5 1,000 and I hear odd sound out here in the deadpan silence. Sort of like that infrasonic thing, but not the same, coming from over in that direction. So to the point where I was berating the Skoftik from before, weird shit happens out here. It doesn't have to be Bigfoot related. It just has to be weird. And it could be a sound made by any one of a number of things, but it's not characteristic. It happens once in a blue moon, and when it does, it's enough to kind of draw your interest. So do the world a favor and shut up with your absolutes, because you don't know as much as you think you do. And quite frankly, bite me for thinking you do. Anyway, we're gonna keep going a little further and see where we end up. We're on the back side of the third bog right now. If you look out and see that big opening over there, that's effectively what that is. And the way out for those, wondering if I'm lost. No, I mean, the worst case scenario is you just keep your eye on that and follow the water line, which is visible through the trees, back to where you're familiar again, and then hook up with the trail about 20 minutes later and you're fine. It's not such a big area you're going to die out here. It's also not so cold that the elements are going to present a major challenge today. But I put it on to see if the noise was going to repeat itself, but it doesn't seem to. So again, I'm going to preserve battery life and start working my way back a little bit. Probably doing exact. There's a crow mocking me. That's how quiet it is out here. Notice he cut through the middle of the silence. But it's probably also warning his friends I'm out here. Cover blown. So I'm going to take another break. I just wanted to see if I could catch that audio. If I had more battery life, I'd be going longer, but no such luck. So I'll be back in a little bit and we'll see where we are.